In the recent days, we have heard some great news about COVID-19 vaccines. Pfizer has announced about 90% vaccine effectiveness, and Moderna just now, hot off the press, came out with an announcement of about 95% vaccine effectiveness. So these are excellent news. But what does this all mean? We have seen very little data in public. This is all based on press releases and announcements. Hello everyone and welcome. My name is Naveen Agarwal and I have made this video as part of my series on COVID-19 treatments and now vaccines. My view in these videos is from the perspective of an informed patient. We want to know what is going on so we can figure out what it means, what the benefits are, what the risks are, and we can make an informed decision. So just like you, I hear all these press releases and announcements, and I wonder what is going on. We have seen very little data and information. If you like these videos, please subscribe to my YouTube channel and let me know in comments any thoughts and questions you have so I can discuss those topics in more detail in my future videos. Well, so in this video, I will talk about these results, what they mean, and what we can understand in general about the nature of benefit risk assessments. So let's look at the results first. These results are early phase 3 trial results. Now we know tens of thousands of patients have been enrolled in these trials, both for Pfizer and Moderna, but it's very early. So they have looked at now about 95 confirmed COVID cases after the vaccine has been given to some people. So there's a placebo group and there's a vaccine group. And they're looking at the distribution of these confirmed cases that they have found after a certain period of time between the placebo group and the vaccine group. And they're finding that 90 to 95% of the cases are distributed in the placebo group. And only about 5 to 10% are in the vaccine group. So the conclusion is, or the announced conclusion is, that these vaccine candidates are 90 to 95% effective. Is that really true? I wonder about that. Because just by the distribution of cases, we are making a conclusion about a causative effect of the vaccine. We need to know more behind that decision or behind that conclusion. There is no data published in scientific literature or peer-reviewed literature. It's too soon. And both these companies are trying to get emergency use authorization by the FDA. So I have no doubt that they will provide a lot of data to the FDA. And FDA will make a decision based on the recommendation of the Independent Data Management Review Committee. I have full trust in the process. But as just member of the common public, I'm curious. What does this mean? And let me understand whether the claim of this effectiveness really can hold ground. Could it be pure chance? Could it be due to factors of exposure? Maybe the vaccine group, people in that group were not exposed as much as people in the placebo group. We don't know. So let's leave that aside for a moment and really wonder about the benefit risk of a vaccine. There are 3 things that I want to talk about in this video. The first point is that the perception of the benefit risk is highly influenced by messaging. And I'll give some examples of that. The second point I want to talk about is benefit risk is highly personal. So we may talk about benefit risk as a whole, but when it comes to an individual or their family or loved ones, the calculation of benefit risk is highly personal. And the third thing I want to talk about is that benefit risk evaluation changes over time as we get more and more information to answer some of the unresolved questions, and the level of uncertainty changes over time. Okay, so the first point is about messaging. When you hear a headline, 90% vaccine effectiveness with very little adverse events. That's what we read in the paper or in the news media or press releases. When we emphasize benefit, the risk is perceived as low. So People who pay more attention to the risk may be asking the question, hey, what about exposure? What about long-term effects? We don't know anything about that. How can you say that very few adverse events? That's what we know now. But we are emphasizing the 90% effectiveness benefit. So when the benefit is emphasized in messaging, the risk is perceived as low. Let me give you a counter example. When the risk is emphasized in messaging, benefit is perceived as low. So we have all heard about, in this context, the risk of COVID. It can kill, and we have heard over and over and over again, right? So the benefit of going out is not very high. Benefit of dining out or traveling is not very high because the risk is perceived to be very high. Let's take nuclear power, for example, right? We have memory of nuclear disasters very recently in Japan or Chernobyl. Given that history and just fear and uncertainty about nuclear power, the benefit of energy from nuclear sources is considered to be low, and there is a lot of resistance behind that. Huge amount of research in this area. Perception of risk matters. So benefit, risk is part of messaging. The understanding and perception is part of messaging. So I want us to pay attention to that as this new information comes along. We need to pay attention to what kind of perception it is invoking in us before we can make an informed decision. Okay, second point. Benefit risk is highly personal. To somebody who is at high risk of exposure, maybe they work around sick patients all the time, little bit of benefit, even if it's 50% effective, may be good because they have a very high level of exposure and high level of risk. Someone who is, let's say, have pre-existing conditions, or they are in the older demographic where the consequences of getting this infection are very, very severe. For them, their risk tolerance could be high. They could go with 40-50% effectiveness. 90% looks very good to them, right? But for most people, if we don't know much about the adverse events or the long-term effects, we should ask the question whether it is still worthwhile without looking at all the information. Now, I want to make sure that we are not confusing this benefit risk analysis with benefit and cost. People have talked about Pfizer's vaccine needing cryogenic refrigeration, needing dilution at the point of use. They are logistics and cost related topics. I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about purely from a health perspective because that's my area of expertise and interest. Okay, so we talked about benefit risk is very personal. We can come out with all these numbers and they don't mean much to an individual or in a family environment where you have other factors to consider. Third thing, benefit risk changes over time. 90%, 95% is based on just less than 100 cases. As time progresses, I fully expect this number to come down. To what extent? We don't know. So let's not get too excited. This is very good news, very optimistic result, and we should be positive. But I don't have any expectation of maintaining this 90% to 95% effectiveness threshold or level without understanding the causative effects. Do we know that it is because of the vaccine that we are seeing these numbers, or is it pure chance or pure exposure level or some other factor? So level of uncertainty right now is very high. And this is what happens with all medical products. When you introduce a product in the marketplace, your level of uncertainty is high. And over time, as you gather more information, the level of uncertainty reduces. And the benefit risk now is we can be more confident. Whether it's at 90% effectiveness or not, we don't know. Maybe it's 50%. Because I remember FDA had come out with this expectation of only 50% effectiveness would be acceptable at this point of time. And that would make sense because they are comparing it against no other option. So time will tell what will be the ultimate effectiveness. It's good news to go forward right now, but we should be careful about thinking that this is it. This is what it's gonna be. Okay, so we talked about three things. Benefit risk perception can be heavily influenced by messaging. We need to be careful and pay attention to that. Second, benefit risk assessment is personal. No matter what we hear in the media, we need to evaluate it from the perspective of our own situation. Talk to your doctor. understand fully what it means. And three, benefit risk changes over time. So I expect this to change over time as well. Well, I hope you find this information useful. Let me know what's on your mind. Visit my website www.exceedqm.com. I specialize in risk management and I talk about benefit risk and other aspects of risk management on my website in many different articles. I want to thank you for your interest and attention, and I hope all of you are staying safe in these very difficult times.